Hey everyone, it's 11:05, so we should probably start talking. So thank you for coming to another one of the At Journey's End series. This is the one for Cersei Lannister, so if you're here for someone else, maybe we'll talk about them, but it's not focused on them, so thanks for coming. Let's introduce. You want to go down the line? Who are you?
I am Laura Stone. I'm an author and a ghostwriter and a media blogger for a website called Hey Don't Judge Me, where I write about Game of Thrones.
Oh, I've never heard of it. Is it? Oh, I'm David Rosenblatt. I write for Watchers on the Wall, and I have my own blog called Squinty over analyzesthings.wordpress.com.
Great title.
.net.
I'm
Dan Selke. I'm the editor at winteriscoming.net.
Yes.
I'm Wendy Weissman, aka The Wendy Nerd. I am at wendynerdwrites at tumblr.com and at The Wendy Nerd on Twitter.
Cool. So today I was thinking, and in terms of Cersei, there's obviously lots of feelings, either positive or negative, on the journey's end, the end of Cersei. However, I do think it's very important and hopefully exciting and interesting to talk about Cersei from the beginning and working all the way through. So I thought it would be good to highlight some of our favorite moments, stand for Lena Headey, and just sort of start at the beginning and just sort of talk our way through seasons 1 through 8 and, we'll dig in a little more from there. So I just wanted to throw a little question out for everybody. The beginning of the show, the pilot, and moving forward, what sort of stuck out for you as Cersei, as Lena Headey's take on her, and what were your thoughts? What did you think?
Honestly, in the first season, I think the scene that kind of blew up was the one, and still is one of her best, is with her and Robert talking about their marriage.
Yes.
I mean, I think it's important because that's not in the books at all, so it was a surprise even to book readers. And I think it established Cersei as someone, even though she never became a good guy, she never became a conflicted villain, really. She never became an anti-hero.
She always knew who she was and what she wanted and how to get it.
But at the same time, in that scene, she was a horrible person who it was possible to empathize or sympathize with a bit, which I think separates her from the Joffreys and the Ramsays and even the Eurons of the show, where they're just like all villain all the time. Cersei was a great villain because there was that little part of you that was like, or at least it wasn't made it. Maybe she could turn it on if she really tried, or maybe you can get behind her even when she's doing things like blowing up a church full of
I was totally pro her blowing up that church. Except for the part where Marjorie.
We'll get to season 6. We'll get there.
But yeah, and I think that scene was a really good starting place for that, where it was, okay, so this is a person who is going to kill a direwolf out of spite on the way to King's Landing. She's going to cut off the first.
What did the beast with Savage your son? Like, it's just so laissez-faire. Just my kid got hurt.
Robert not caring. Like she knew he wouldn't bother. But that you could still see things from her point of view, that there's a place it came from.
Hello. I'm sorry. And I mean, basically, she was her father. She was the most like her father, and I just hate on her behalf that he never acknowledged that she was the one that was most like him. But I love so much that from the very start, she let the audience know. The force of Lena's performance, but as the character's written as well, she lets you know she's brilliant. She absolutely understands the way to maneuver in this political world, and absolutely knows what her role is in it. And for me, she is just so incredibly bitter just so bitter that she does know how it works, and yet she is trapped in the role of having to be a king bearer. That's my role, is that I have to give a king.
I think she's best exemplified the show's name is Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
She's the one who says that, right?
Yeah.
When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or die, there is no middle ground.
Yeah.
Which goes into what you're saying about how she knows how to play that political game, but because she is the only she is, Tywin has 3 kids, one of whom is a woman, and so she gets the least opportunity to exercise that. And she's shrewder, definitely than Jaime, but she is not given the opportunity to do more with that, and I think that bestows upon her a more bitter view of the world.
Oh, yeah.
But, yeah.
I agree with I agree with Dan here about like the part where she's talking about their marriage. And we gotta note that like the show Cersei is quite a bit different from the book Cersei in a lot of ways. But I do think it's funny that we only start seeing the sympathetic side to Cersei when in like the 4th book, really, when we find out just how bad things between her and Robert really were. Like Robert was a straight up abusive rapist. And
I think they do show that in the show.
yeah, they do. No, it's not that they don't show that in the show. I'm saying that we don't really find out in the books how bad Robert. We know that he hits her, but like we don't really find out just how bad it is in the book.
Years
of like this, him clawing at her skin and all sorts of stuff. Like there's even shades of like the Mad King in it, and like the spiteful way he treated her for basically not being a dead woman. And
like that conversation between the first season, I think that's nicer than anything they would ever like. The books would have to leave like more civil than they've ever.
No. Robert
And
is
it
very
feels
different.
that way, too.
It give you an opportunity to not, again, empathize with him as well. Neither of them ever particularly liked each other or wanted to set this marriage up. But yes, her POV chapters came in the 4th book, but the show was an opportunity, I think, to showcase her more from the beginning, which is smart.
Yeah, and that's partly because they had Lena Headey.
Yeah.
And we had to talk about like Lena Headey. The Cersei Lannister of the show, like, is as powerful as she is because of Lena Headey. Like, she's just so incredible. And like, it's sort of like Carice Van Houten as Melisandre. Like, until book 5, when we had her one POV chapter, I didn't really feel much with Melisandre, other than I thought she was an asshole, and a crazy person. But but like, Carice Van Houten made me care a lot more about Melisandre than I would have normally. And but yeah, there's a lot with Cersei going on, and I think she's actually one of the most fascinating characters in the entire series.
Sure.
Oh, she's one, and I've gotten so much flack for this at other previous conventions, but I'm always like, I freaking love Cersei. Like, I don't want to be Cersei. I don't want to be her, but like she is entertaining as hell.
Well, the funny thing is that she's an antagonist to like all of my favorite characters. Like I love Sansa and I love Marjorie, and she's directly antagonistic and responsible for so much of their suffering, and I love her anyway.
Right.
It's okay to hate bad people.
Yes.
I will stand for Ramsay as the best villain all day, and people will boo me and hiss me, and
he is the best
anyone
villain.
should be Ramsay. That's not. But you can like bad people.
Exactly. So if you guys are cool with this, I would like to say that my most favorite Cersei, personally, my most favorite scenes with Cersei is season 2, Battle of Blackwater Bay. And I think it is the most honest we ever see her. I think that is the real Cersei, which is like, drink. By the way, go ahead and sing for these girls. Oh, he's here to kill us all.
Yeah, he's here to kill us all, and we're all in for a bit of a rip.
So on to season 2 now.
You're in for a bit of a rip.
Yeah,
Well, you know what's amazing is that a lot of what I think actually the show had more of an opportunity to do that I really appreciated is that the book shows Tyrion preparing for the Battle of Blackwater Bay, but because you don't have Cersei's POV, you can't see that. In the show, you know that she's also preparing for it in her own way, and she has the potion with Tommen, and I think that's really powerful.
I absolutely agree. But I love the dynamic of. This is the kind of thing that a lot of people who are in positions of power don't consider that's happening when you're talking about war is what are we doing with the women and children? And then what happens when it goes ski-wampus? You kind of hope you have an executioner in there to make it go swiftly, But I loved her bald, let's just be really clear about what is going to happen, and what an eye-opening moment that was for Sansa, who still is she's got a little bit of an education at this point, but is still learning. And I think that was a pivotal moment for Sansa. Cersei's tutelage of, let me tell you what else you have to be responsible for as a queen.
But at the same time, like, being incredibly petty and mean about it. Like, this little girl. And she's
You're going to
trying,
be Joffrey's queen. Enjoy.
like, she's trying to get under the skin of a 13-year-old, which isn't hard, and she's just taking delight in it.
Because she can exercise power over someone, which reminds me of
Very
another-
Snow White.
one of her best scenes in season 2 is, I think it's the first episode when she is showing what power is, and her answer to Littlefinger is power.
Yeah,
Right.
Which again, that's an original show thing too, which is nice.
Yeah.
I also like the scene in season 2 where she brings in Tyrion and brings in Roz, who she mistook for Shay, and just, this is more a Lena Headey thing, but the way she just says, get out.
Well, I think season 2 is one of the best seasons for Cersei.
Oh,
I mean,
totally.
she's just so great, and I love her interactions with Sansa because we see a lot of her shades of humanity, even when she's being the biggest bitch. She's like, there's these shades of things in it, and it's like I said, it's down to Lena Headey for me. Like the part where Sansa gets her period, and Cersei's like, well,
The freaking terror of that. Like that. Ooh.
it's so good. It's so good.
I mean, Headey obviously is a huge part of why she's successful, especially in the early seasons, though. They did give her stuff to work with. Like, like her trying to kill her own son on the Iron Throne is obviously something a crazy monster would do. But, I mean, again, it's amazing. Like, you still know it comes from a warped place of she genuinely thinks that is the best thing to do.
Right.
And she thinks it's going to be a less painful death for Tom than what you get at the end.
I mean, and to be fair, it's Stannis Baratheon. I mean,
And she's probably right.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
still shouldn't poison your kid.
I would like to say with my children in the audience, I am anti-poisoning children.
Don't poison the kids.
Maybe if you bring home some bad grades.
No, you're right though. I mean, I think she was given particularly good writing, specifically in those early seasons when I think there was just more to do.
And we should note that episode, the Battle of Blackwater, was written by George.
Yes, it was.
Verbatim. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
And actually, I mean, while I'm talking about this, like, that's another, the Tom on the Throne is another original scene, because of
Yeah.
course, we're not just POV at that point, so they're all original.
trying to think of-
She's alone.
Before we move on to season 3, are there any other season 2 scenes that I'm trying to think maybe were original to the show, or couldn't think of any more?
The scene where they're talking about Sansa's wedding to Joffrey, and like Marcella's there, and she's like, I'm gonna get 2 new gowns. Of course,
Yeah, that's fun. Wow.
yeah, that part is very interesting.
Yeah.
And that's original to the
Awesome. What happens in season 3?
No.
Marjorie.
A new thorn in her side.
But I love how hard George leans into the Snow White fable, of just that older woman losing her power, losing her luster, sees the young, pretty thing coming in and just, here, have a comb. Here, have an apple. Just really just how it gets under her skin and how that, just pitting older women against younger women. As an older woman, I understand.
I think the most memorable thing for me, like off the top of my head, is season 3 for her. This was definitely new to the show, but it's like not even dialogue. It's when Loras is trying to talk to her, and Sansa's getting up. And just the OG Cersei looking out a window off the balcony, just turning away.
I mean, for me, it's definitely got to come on.
It's so good.
Call me sister again.
She's so icy. I love it.
I do too.
So, okay, let me ask a question. So she's saying doing these horrible things, and we're going like, Yas Queen is so great. Why is that different for Cersei? Like, I feel like if Ramsay, and he has, took Sansa out to look at a flayed old lady who tried to help her, and be like, they make him tough and then she died before. Like, we don't go like, that's awesome. Why do you think it's different for Cersei?
Well, first of all, Cersei's fabulous. She does it with a bit of humor that I don't.
She dresses better.
She does it with a bit of humor that like other people, and also she has humanity to her because the things that happen to her, there's a reason she is the way she is.
Yes.
Like, with Ramsay, he's just a straight up psychopath and a sadist. That's it. That's literally it. There's nothing more there. We know he has daddy issues, but like.
He is a bastard and feels neglected.
But like, we have in contrast Jon Snow, who's also a bastard. He's not a straight up sadistic psychopath. Cersei's not like a psychopath, I don't think.
Well, there's also a political reason, a political motivation for most of what she does, I think, just because of her position and trying to maintain her position and her relevancy, especially when Marjorie comes in, and then we move into season, the first of season 4, before the most fabulous death in the entire show, 4-2, so good. Bye, Joffrey King Weaselteat. But the political, to me, that's the difference with her and Ramsay, is that she does these things because of, and I'm not excusing it.
No,
Let's not be Cersei Lannister.
a lot of disclaimers here.
Yeah. But anyway, but to your point, I think, I feel like that's the reason. That's my reason.
No,
Makes sense.
I mean, she is fighting in a lot of ways. She is still fighting for the survival and or at least for mercy for her family. Like when she's about to kill Tommen, she's doing that because she's afraid that he's going to be cut up into little pieces instead. So either you go to sleep and never wake up, or you get cut up into little pieces. So, she, in her own way, she's fighting for mercy for her family. Like in a lot of, they emphasize this way more. Like she's not abusive to her kids the way she is in the books. In the show, we don't see a scene of Cersei grabbing Tommen by the ear and dragging him across the throne room as he screams and cries. And
Like having a whipping boy whip in front of them.
yes, exactly. And we don't see that sort of like psychological torture she visits on poor Tommen. So it's with Cersei, like there's way more of an emphasis of how much she loves her kids, and it's a lot less selfish in the show than it is in the books.
Yeah.
Sure. They definitely, maybe to overextend it, they definitely hammer home how much, I love my children, right? Like Tyrion makes fun of her, you love your children, each one redeeming quality, that and your cheekbones, and it's like, that was a great line, but it certainly created a lot of memes of I love my children, what else will I do? And they definitely hammered that home, but I think to make sure that people understood there is something beneath the surface for her. She's not just generic villain, as we've mentioned.
And we get to also like Marjorie, like in the books, Marjorie's a lot more innocent. No, well, she is. She's not as like politically active in the books as she is in the show until the Ironborn show up. She more plays a part. She's more like playing a part. Like I'm the public sweetheart. I'm Westeros' sweetheart and everything. But she's not going up to Cersei and going, well, we're about to be sisters and making fun. Like, are you Dowager Queen or Queen Mother? Like, there's none of that.
Because Marjorie just wants to be able to repeat her grandmother and be like, I was good. I was good. She's trying to get that.
This isn't a Marjorie panel, but like
right. Sorry. We have to talk about Marjorie.
I was going to say that I think that you could read that into the book Marjorie. Like, part of it is from her point of view. Like,
we don't have much interactions between the two of them, like straight up interactions.
I just feel like there are bits in the books where it's hinted that Marjorie is smarter than she lets on.
Oh, she is smart.
There's
nobody doubts that she's smart.
Where Cersei is trying to get her to sleep with one of the Kettle Blacks, and her plan is to, she cheats on Tom, and then I can use that to get her. And like the Kettle Black reports back, she's a wall. Like she makes jokes and she's funny and she jests right back, but she doesn't do anything. And you get the idea she knows what she's playing at, even though we don't get it up close.
And nobody doubts that Marjorie's smart. Like Jamie says, she's as smart as she is pretty. Like I'm not saying that Marjorie's not smart. I'm saying she's less Anne Boleyn-ish, I guess.
Sure.
In the books than she is in the show.
But back to I think what makes back to Cersei. That was aside from the Marjorie panel. What I think they did in the show to make it, I guess, different is Marjorie's aged up much more than the other kid. Like she's aged up at least 10 years, right? To be Natalie Dormer, we can talk about all day. She's wonderful.
But she has to be a threat to Cersei to
Yeah.
under Cersei's
So they
skin.
did two things. They made Marjorie more like an adult,
Right.
maybe younger, but an adult, so Cersei could like see herself in this younger queen. And they greatly enhanced the incredible Dame Diana Riggs part as Olenna Tyrell, and made her like a much larger presence
One
in
of
the
the
show.
better
to give
show changes.
Oh.
Just Tyrell stuff.
Yeah, and they gave Cersei her own antagonists at court.
Right.
And so I thought that really started in season 3 and then sort of went beyond.
Yeah.
So,
What's always funny is that Cersei is so hostile toward the Tyrells, and it's played as like, just
Bitterness.
and absurd, but in a way, like, isn't she right?
Yeah.
Like, didn't Olenna kill Joffrey? Wasn't
Yeah.
Marjorie's plan to pack her off to Casterly Rock and take her out of power? Like, in a weird way, even though she goes about it, like, she blows people up. I mean, she was right. The Tyrells were coming for her power.
Without question.
so what about going, from season 3, then what about into season 4? Is that sort of started to play out more? What do you think? And the Martells came at that time, so there was more.
Yeah.
What stands out for you in season 4?
Well,
Sorry.
okay. Well, I think when Joffrey dies, her best scene is when she's like, Tyrion, and it's like,
totally.
and also in the trial where she talks about Tyrion telling her that her joy will die like ashes in her mouth.
Yep.
She's
And
really
he did
suffering under
say
so
it.
bad.
Yep.
And the morning, and her scene with Marjorie,
know the dead is fake.
scene with Marjorie when Tommen is getting crowned is so good. I love it so much.
Season 5, though, right? Oh, whatever. It's fine.
Whatever. No, not season 4 because it's when right after.
Oh,
he dies.
yeah.
You know what stands out for me? I love new scenes. I love new ones that I guess weren't in the books. I love her walking in the gardens with Oberyn Martell, which I believe was the final scene, if I remember correctly, that Pedro Pascal said he filmed, which is very cathartic. And he's talking about how we don't hurt little girls in Dorne.
And we hurt.
She says
They hurt little girls everywhere.
all over, yeah,
Once again, Cersei's right.
all over the world. It's like
They hurt the most little girls in the dorm.
Yeah.
I also want to stop for the bit during the Purple Wedding. Like, another funny Cersei's bitter moment where
she has a ton of food. She's a George Rose.
So many. Yeah, she
I
has
mean,
so many.
I do wonder, because, never mind, just with the bit where Marjorie tells Pycelle to, get the leftovers to the neighborhood children. Cersei's like, give me the dogs.
If I remember correctly, because I remembered writing a review on this so many years ago, Lena had 3 scenes that were I remember being very excited about that at the wedding because you don't have a Cersei perspective at that time.
Right.
I'm trying to remember I know she had a one-on-one with Brienne at some point.
She had Tywin, Illyria, Cersei, Oberyn all had a little force
great.
talk.
And she's getting increasingly drunk.
That's what she does. So. And Illyria's like,
She too
we
drinks
don't take
and knows
bastards
things.
Well, okay, so I have a question about that. This is more season 5, but I feel like one of the differences between book Cersei and show Cersei is in the books, she's just not as smart.
Yeah, she's really not.
Yeah, I feel like
She has one good idea in her POVs, which is let's have a bank in Casterly Rock. That's a good idea.
That would have been a good idea.
That's a good idea. Everything else
Well,
she does is so stupid.
that's an improvement, I think, in the show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To give
well,
us the one.
I'm of two minds about it. Obviously it's an improvement because we like smart characters, and if she's gonna last against Daenerys, which she does, it kind of impressed me, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She has to be smarter. I was kind of regretting that we lost a lot of the black comedy from A Feast for Crows, where she's making these moves that are clearly terrible. Like she's putting a hot guy in a small council named Arrayne Waters, who's just there because he's hot.
And he looks like Rhaegar.
Yeah, and then he steals all his ships.
Yeah.
And she has Tanea Merriweather, who just is, a social climber who just tells everything to.
Yeah, or she makes the whole small council full of sycophants and idiots, and then complains about I'm surrounded by imbeciles.
Yes.
I wonder why.
And she's so sure of herself, though, in her books that I'm a genius.
It's been I guess for me 6 years since I've read A Feast for Crows, so I'm not as up on that. But what I do remember, I guess in terms of the show, I think they what they, as we were talking about from season 3, how they made the Tyrells bigger, I think they
Right.
took a lot of, maybe not the sycophantic characters, obviously, that were lost. I mean, they made Mace Tyrell, something like that. But I think they took a lot of that animosity that was building up there and just put it into a recognizable family who was, I would say, much larger, more immediate towards affecting the plot. So, I mean, you can argue about, I guess, what worked, what didn't work, but I think that was sort of what they ended up going for, is streamlining into that.
Again, like
My stupid maid keeps shrinking all my dresses.
yeah, and she's getting, she's drinking and eating more, and Boar, of course, she loves Boar. Just know it. So just like I was upset that we lost because I thought Feast for Crows is hilarious. Those Cersei chapters. I thought we kind of lost the black comedy, but we did get a smarter character who's also, so I guess it's like net neutral.
Yeah.
I like Cersei in the show a little bit more than I like Cersei in the books. But I feel so sad for Cersei in the books, whereas with Cersei in the show, I'm just like,
So,
She probably had that maid who was shrinking her dresses like killed or something.
probably gave her to Kyber or something.
Yeah.
so
We're doing nothing.
what happens, I guess, going into, I don't think she does that much at the end of season 4, right? That's more
I mean, it's more about
Tyrion and
Tyrion,
Tywin, yeah.
Yeah.
But season 5 is like her season, right?
Yeah.
Season 5 is her season.
Should we
For sure.
discuss the walk?
Let's do, because it's
Go for it.
crucial.
Okay, so I was so nervous about this scene going in because
Sure.
so at the time Game of Thrones was kind of coming off its shameless TNA period,
right.
which was earlier in the early seasons. Now, I mean, you know, I read the book and like just what a powerful scene, what a knockout scene, and like, oh god, like this show has been criticized for like just having shameless exploitation.
Right, and
kind
how
of
are they gonna-
continuity.
And being very bad about
Yeah,
violence
how-
towards women too. and
How are they
things
going to
like that.
do this scene where the nudity is, you know, it's there, but it has to be, it's not sexualized at all. It's horrific.
Yeah.
And honest to God, I was very impressed with the end result. I thought they were going to botch it because it's such a sensitive scene. And at the end of the day, I did think they really were focusing on her pain. It wasn't about
Right.
like exploitation. It was about her horror because it's a horrific
Right.
thing.
And I think that
lasted
it's,
so long.
oh my gosh, like just holding that long shot, I mean, you took every step, your feet hurt at the end, you cringed, your shoulders were curled in. If you watch that scene, even if you just absolutely despise that character, if you could watch that scene and not feel just a shred of pity, I mean, I think you might need to, you probably are a robot. That's what it is. Probably a robot. But it was such a, I mean, as a woman moving through the world, I think there's something that is so instantly relatable in that, you know, the religious persecution, the shame, the eyes, the entire city's eyes on every inch of her body and the judgment on every inch of her body. And just the humiliation of it, the degradation of it, people throwing all manner of bodily fluids. It's just, and the delight, the absolute delight in, and I get it from a classism point of view of how gratifying it must be to know that here you are living in, you know, shit alley, basically, and children like that, okay, in shit alley, and you know that you're there and that your life is awful because of this super rich, and then now you get a chance to give them a little taste of what you felt. Like, I get that, but I'm also like, oh, I could just imagine being in her place and how awful that would feel, and I just think it was an absolute magnificent and painful moment in television that I don't know much that can even equal that scene.
Yeah.
And I think part of the thing that really gets you is that the punishment itself, and I said this in another scene, but like another panel, but the irony of the punishment is that it has nothing to do with anything bad Cersei actually did. The only thing, this was for the crimes Cersei confessed to. Like, they made that very clear. You're still up for all these other crimes. But the only thing she confessed to was having sex with people who were not Robert Baratheon after he died.
Yeah.
So the only thing she was being punished for is basically owning her own vagina and owning her own sexuality and just being a woman, basically. And that's part of it. Like, she's not being, it's not just that it's a punishment that you wouldn't give anybody, like you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy, but unless you're Tywin. But like, it's also that it has nothing to do with anything bad Cersei actually did. None of her actual crimes, like real ethical crimes.
I wonder.
Which are very real, very
I will
unethical.
say that in the books, another great Cersei crime, she has the original High Septon killed.
Yes.
And so I think that's also part of the punishment, which
I wonder how you feel, and this is certainly tangential, about the effect on the world of people commenting on Game of Thrones, or even don't know about Game of Thrones, has been the shame meme, and just
Right,
like,
right.
shame, and people have almost like started to make fun of it, and it becomes like comedy to an extent. So I wonder your feelings on that being the immortalization of that scene, and what people who maybe watched Game of Thrones once seem to remember from that. What do you think that says?
Honestly, I think, absolutely see your point. I think that the majority, and of course this is my limited interaction with the part of the world that I connect with, I think the overall has been people using the shame thing in ways to promote feminist ideals and to kind of underscore certain situations that we're going through today with Me Too and other types of movements where people are trying to take ownership of their bodies and take ownership of their bodily autonomy. So there's always going to be people who kind of lowball it and go for the low-hanging fruit. But I think for the most part, it set out to portray a certain message, and for me, it was successful in that. But that's my point of view, so I can't speak for others. But
Does anybody think that, like, this is one slight thing that I kind of have some mixed feelings about, but the body double they use for
Right.
Cersei. Now, it obviously had to use a body double because Lena Headey was pregnant.
yeah,
But they used like a 20-year-old, basically.
Yeah.
And one of the main things in the book, like they make a point of, is that Cersei's no longer young and skinny.
yeah, she's aging.
She's aging and she's put on some weight and she's also had 3 kids. And there's like all these comments, like the comments about her weight really like stick out to me, like in the books, like where this one kid goes like, that can't be the queen, she's saggy like my mom, and stuff like that.
it was written by a man.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But I think that's actually an important part, though, in a way, because a lot of women are shamed for aging. Like, I remember people talking about, like, Carrie Fisher lashing out at somebody who wrote a blog about how she used to be hot and now she's not hot anymore because she doesn't look like Slave Leia.
It's sexism.
One of the stylistic choices to keep the short hair for the remainder of the show.
Yeah.
After they shorten her hair, I mean, that's one way.
I thought it looked great, to be honest.
I'm all for Pixie.
It's hard to show her
Yeah.
any less feminine.
Yeah.
So beautiful, but I think
Yeah.
retaining that hair being on, I mean, there's a difference between long hair, you know.
And her maid gets her hair shorn.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
People are-
I
that's a
have a
nice
point,
little.
I'd like to point out that, keep in mind that one of the biggest shocks in the entire show is when Melisandre takes off the charm and her necklace, and what do we see, and why are we so horrified? It's an old body that's not tight, right?
Yeah.
So I think, I mean, it's like, right? It's like, come on. Bodies get soft, it's called gravity, it's gonna happen to everyone.
I think anyone focusing on oh, that doesn't look like Lena Headey's body. No.
But it's also, it's a TV
You're missing
show.
the point of the show. Or the scene,
Right.
excuse me.
Right, but I think that that's something that's beyond the writer's room, that's beyond the actors, that's an upper, the upper pay saying, well, if we're gonna show a naked body and this is somebody that is a main character, they must be hot, they must be attractive, they must be conventional.
That's how I took it too. It's just,
Yeah.
that it was just how TV works at the end of the day. Like, they have beautiful people on television.
That's a different
Lena
panel
Headey is
that we should
beautiful.
have.
Oh,
I want to
she's
like, right?
gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like the same thing. Like, I mean, like Egret is like in the books they specify that she has a really like bad teeth, like a broken smile, but still somehow
Her
works.
eyes has
Like,
perfect-
but I knew they're not gonna do that on television. It's just
Yeah, Tyrion shouldn't have a nose,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it happens.
I was like,
I was
He doesn't have different colored eyes in the books he does.
I would have been brave to go. I wouldn't have been normal.
well, they flubbed, like, I have a lot of issues with the characterization of Tyrion in a lot of ways, because they make him into a nice guy when he's a child molesting, murderous rapist. But,
We do have Tyrion, Pam.
I have lots of, go back and reread Tyrion's chapters, he's not a good guy at all. But but like a part of the thing, like it just rubbed it in when they like they didn't take off his nose, and then they had Marjorie say he was very good looking, especially with the scar.
Let's focus on Cersei. There is a Tyrion panel, and that's book Tyrion, and we'll talk about show Cersei. Okay, I understand.
Sorry.
At the end of the day, though, even though that they did use the body double, I think the walk did do what it was supposed to do.
Yeah.
Right.
And got the point across, and just I think was an iconic moment in modern TV.
And then would you say that her journey after, so she has that horrible journey into self-reflection, but I don't know how deeply she self-reflected, maybe just on her, further on her bitterness. But after that, her journey becomes a blazing path of, she's on her revenge tour. You know, I called it the Burning Bridges tour. She's just like, you're all
Well, that's what I felt really cathartic when she burned,
Exactly,
blew up the church, when she blew up the high sept. Like, I was like,
For season 6, let's go.
Oh yeah. I think it's hard for season 6. I mean, like, is anybody here not the church blowing up is the favorite church they've seen in season 6?
so great.
But she had
It
like good
makes
stuff.
no
but-
sense that she become queen after that, because like she just burned out like this major thing that was very popular, and it's amazing that there wasn't a giant revolt after that. But it's so.
Oh no, I think
Well, she
power
killed
is
people who
power.
revolted.
She just used her power to kill everyone.
Right.
She's now going to be in power.
Can I just
So-
say, the one thing that shocked me, well, shock is not the right word, that made me kind of go, come on. After that happened, and then after Tommen took his own life, which of course he did, he's like, but my special purpose just got blown up. Marjorie is his special purpose. But when he took his own life, and then Jamie comes back, and she's just like, it took you too long. And he's like, I tried, oh my God. You don't know what I have been through to get to you.
But, like-
But when she basically was like pissed at Tommen for killing himself, like she was just like, I'm sorry, Tommen who?
That was a little. That made me go like, wait, what?
You know, it was almost a parallel to, it was, remember when she finds out that I guess she felt betrayed by her son, she was like, burn his body, or something like that, right? Which reminds me almost exactly of when you think Ramsay's about to show mercy for Miranda, he's like, feed her body to the dogs. It's like, it was just, heel turn.
Yeah.
I think that after the walk, it really changed her, and that part of her shut down even further after the walk. And then I also think it's sorry, something's happening here. That after that, and after Joffrey died, and then Marjorie, I think part of it is she's walling herself off, and she already has really big walls, so it's even more so. That the common reaction is partly, I'm not going to deal with this. I can't. Like, I went through Joffrey, and that was like a huge outpouring
And
of
then
emotion.
Marcella.
Yeah.
Marcella, and which is
She's
more
like, I'm
muted,
full up.
Yeah.
but it was still
no,
there.
Well, then we get to season 7, and that's where
Oh, totally. I mean, it's still all in there.
it's
And by the time Tommen happened, I think with the walk and just the revenge path she was on, she was just closing herself off and kind of becoming a person capable of. She had to become a person who was the church. What's that?
Tommen kind of played her too by going, I'm going to side with Marjorie on this one and not my mom. Because he's like, guess what? I love the church. What are we doing now? And she's like,
and he didn't even show up for a walk. Like in
Yeah.
the books, it makes sense because he's like 8.
Right.
But in the show, he's almost
14 or 15.
Yeah, he's like 14 or 15, and that's basically manhood in Westeros. And he doesn't show up to support her or anything. Like I was like, wow, Tommen's kind of a little like. Nah.
Whip.
Yeah. But,
well, Marjorie's good. She's very good. And Cersei's probably like, well, the Frankenmonster is my son now. I will put all my love and attention into it. He does what I want.
So was there any other season 6 scene, or is that just the finale that's what sticks out to everyone, right? I mean,
How do we
I'm
talk
struggling to
about
even think of like
There
a...
was good stuff. Like I like the scene with Olenna, where she was like, "You're the worst person I've ever met." That's a fun scene.
that was so
That's a
rich
good
of
one.
a letter to say, you killed her son, lady.
That's a good one.
It really was. I enjoyed her scene with Tommen, where she kind of like gives an impassioned speech about why absolute monarchies are great.
So what happened in season 7 for
The dungeon scene.
The dungeon scene.
Yes,
That's where
yes.
the last bit of humanity of Cersei, I think, really died.
It's my favorite scene possibly of the entire series.
So good.
I honestly, thank you for reminding me of that, because I had that in my head a while ago. That is for me one of the most bone-chilling scenes I think I've ever seen. I don't really...
So deserved.
I don't really watch horror movies, not because I don't it's not for me. I don't care enough. I don't feel emotional or like chilling. That scene gave me like shivers. It was the most, I think it's Lena Headey's best scene.
Yeah,
I think the writing is, for that scene, so incredible at crafting like here's what I'm going to do, here's what's going to happen next, and just laying everything out for Ilaria, and just the visual terror, because Ilaria, and I can't even remember which
Tiny.
Tiny,
I will never forget Miss Bad Pussy.
Never remember which name is which, but they do everything without speaking, because they can't do it.
Right.
And it's just
Probably a good
the
idea.
exercise of power, and that scene and the way it's shot and everything put together, like that is Cersei for me.
Could you guys just describe that scene? I'm not sure exactly what scene we're talking
Oh,
about.
sure. This is the one after Euron brings Ilaria Sand and Tien Sand back to King's Landing.
Yeah.
Cersei
Traps her in the dungeon
And,
downstairs.
and
It's a
you're
long
watching it
talk.
going, why is Cersei wearing lipstick?
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember the slow realization.
And
calls
she
back to
kisses
season-
Tiny, and I thought, and let's face it,
Marcella died.
Right.
there's no, like, here's the thing, with the set blowing up, with that, at least, like, you're like Marjorie and Loras, like, you feel bad for them. You don't feel bad for anybody else, really, but you feel bad for them, and you're like, no.
Yeah.
But with Ilaria and Tiny, they deserved it. They deserved every bit of that.
I
Like,
still felt kind of bad for them because just because of the performances.
yeah, well, I hated the sand.
Easily the best use of the sand snakes. Like, in all
When they die. They were
I remember when someone saying like, "Are we going to see Ilaria again in season 8?" And I was like, I hope not. I don't mean not just because sand snakes enough. No, but I mean like they kept that so well to show more would just look like another movie that has an unnecessary sequel. That is over. That story is done.
Yeah.
And by the way, weird Cersei, just the insight into her life there. What's the first thing she does immediately after poisoning her enemies? Gives Jaime Lannister a blowjob and has sex. No talk, just goes right. Whoa,
Taking what
what's
she
wrong with
wants,
you?
taking ownership of herself and her wants. I support that. I support it.
Yeah.
Maybe not with her brother, but
Sorry?
Yeah, absolutely it does.
I just love the details where she's like force food down her throat and keep the torches burning bright. So she watches her daughter's skeleton rot. It's just, oh my God, it's so great. Like,
We only have 9 minutes. I feel like we should get to season 8.
yeah.
yeah, I would like to, I feel
What
like
do you think?
I think she loses the plot in season 8 where now it's just, I'm just gonna hold on to the throne, and Jaime gives her an out. He gives her a chance of like, look, our entire lives, we two crazy kids so in love. We're so in love, why don't we let's just do it. Let's just flowers in the attic our way into Essos, and let's just be. And she is just, I've spent every coin of my humanity on grabbing this damn throne, and I finally have it. I think she has just burned through it all. She's just burned through it all, and she cannot. There is no way that she can take even. She can't even lean back on her back foot, let alone take a step back. She's just constantly moving forward with, I have to sit on this and own it.
I wanted those elephants.
And then her actual, the way she's whimpering and crying, like as the rubble is falling down on her, and it's just like, holy crap, this is really how she's going out. I was hoping that she was going to set fire, like she was going to use the wildfire of the Iron Throne, like
One more
Daenerys was going to
time.
Daenerys was going to come in and be like, I just conquered your city, and then she just like, nope, bitch, and then just like smash the wildfire, melts down the Iron Throne and burns laughing at her, and that's what I was hoping for Cersei to go out. That's what I wanted.
I kind of was too, but I mean, I did feel sympathy for her at the end. I do think that, again, Lady Headey would have performed.
Which is not problematic. I know people were upset. Like, why did I feel bad for her? You don't. It's not.
It's always
You don't have to feel
good.
guilty.
She's a human
about it.
being. I mean,
Yeah.
she's still
Because
very
you're a person, then you
Yeah.
can.
I do think it was important for the very end, you do get back to, there is a person inside Cersei who honestly wants something more than the throne, even if it took the destruction of the city and her
Right.
home to realize it, which I mean is great, is that
She's very proud.
yeah, that it had to go that far for her to finally get that there's more to life than the Iron Throne.
But it's also her final son, Frankenmountain. Her final son turns on her because he's like, you know what? I'm gonna take care of this real quick.
Well, I like how she's like,
And that's when she, like, you can see the fear in her face of, I have no one. and she
Yeah,
runs
Qyburn,
and
Kind of love when she just, as soon as Kyber gets killed,
his head smashed like a grape.
I love when she just like, all right, bye, and she just like takes off down the stairs.
You just do this, and I'm just gonna.
So I am not, I know there's lots of contentious feelings about season 8. My biggest personal concern, I did very much enjoy the season, is just the unfortunate lack of Cersei scenes. I don't mind what we were given, I wish there were just more of them. Like, I would love, like, her just talking about how to rule a city, or talking to Qyburn about, like, what are, he can talk, well, the people are concerned, and she can just go, like, and not care.
Right.
That's what I want to
Anything
see
else
that.
kind of sad she didn't get to make out with Harry Strickland?
What?
I wanted her to get that.
Hot Harry?
It was hot.
Is that-
I wanted a scene between, an actual
That's a good scene before you guys.
between her and Missandei, like before
Yes.
the exclusion.
Yes.
That would have been
Yes.
But here's the thing with Cersei, like, I agree there wasn't enough, obviously, but, like, I compare it to Daenerys, where I actually feel like there are scenes, like, missing with Daenerys, where, like, that I needed to get why she turned. I
Yes.
don't feel like there were scenes missing with Cersei to understand her arc. Like, her arc is full. I wish we had more.
No, but it would have helped if Missandei and Cersei had like a scene or two or three or whatever, just sort of talking philosophies where Missandei could like stand up for why she believes in Daenerys and what Daenerys is doing, which itself,
And Cersei can say something.
when she's proven wrong, I think it gives more actually to Daenerys because she's standing so hard for her, and then just Daenerys, just we know what she does, and like
I would have
call
liked
her
to have
in more.
seen Cersei's face when she realizes just how brilliant Missandei is.
Yeah.
Like that would have been like I feel like Elena would have really given us a really good. Can I give you guys my my most hardcore belief headcanon about Cersei Lannister? What? She drinks the Westeros equivalent of Franzia wine. I believe this in my heart. She drinks crappy wine, and that's one of the reasons why she and Tyrion are pissy. I feel like that's been an argument that they've had. And I think every now and then Tyrion brings the good stuff, and she's like, yeah, it's delicious. Damn it. And she's over there tipping it. It's just a random head.
Tip it.
Tip it.
Tip it.
We have like 5 minutes left, so there
Yes.
any thoughts or questions?
Purple shirt.
I'm sorry, I missed the beginning. Did you talk about Maggie the Frog's prophecy and how
Actually,
We did. And
No, that's season 5, episode 1. We skipped straight to the end of season 5.
I think that absolutely colors her entire journey.
Yeah.
do you think that might have been why she was like, okay, well, Joffrey and Marcella are dead. I guess Tommen's next, so I'm going to focus on just vengeance and why she was.
did she actually
I don't
think
know that though, because she tries to have another. She's pregnant.
Yeah.
It's confirmed, right? She's pregnant.
Yeah.
She's Jamie's baby. So
I mean, it definitely helps explain why. I mean, she would have been intransigent against Daenerys anyway. But the fact that, again, that this is the prophesied one who's going to cast me down, and she did. Yeah, it makes sense to dig in her heels. You know what I like about the prophecy is that they brought it up, they had it, like they hardly brought it up, like in the text again, but it was always just under there.
Yeah.
It was always just kind of subtly influencing what she did. They could tell it in like the way she looks at Daenerys at the Dragon Pit meeting. Like she's saying like, oh, this bitch, this is the one.
Anybody else have any other questions, or maybe a scene we didn't talk about you want to throw out there?
fruit shirt.
The entire time I watched the show, I never called Cersei an antagonist. She does action.
Yeah.
But I always saw her more as a victim of her circumstances, and that's just why.
Totally.
She's never not been brutalized.
Yeah.
Like, she's never not been beaten, just been, like, verbally or emotionally abused by her dad, like, just all this stuff. So, like, it never felt like it wasn't justified. Like, there was always a reasoning in her mind of why she's doing what she's doing.
Right.
Her blowing up the set was rude. She's like, she's carrying power. She's like, this is the way I can do it. There we go.
becoming queen means nobody can hurt her anymore.
Exactly.
Ooh.
So
It's kind of.
I never felt like she was a villain and would talk her.
I agree with you, and it's kind of like what, like how I see Sansa in that.
Yeah. Sansa's sort of the anti-Cersei in a way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that she was brutalized over and over, and then her whole like I am gonna be queen north no matter what, like is her saying I have to have power so no one else can do this to me. Like that is Cersei's thing. I feel like Cersei's story is a woman who was traumatized all her life
Right.
and internalized it rather than kind of got grappled with it and moved on.
They don't have very good mental
It's like
health care.
internalized self-hatred. Internalized not hatred, that's not the word. Internalized self-conflict projected onto others, and the way that she's always held Tyrion accountable for killing her mom. I don't know that she really believes that, but she's finding an excuse to exercise power over her younger brother.
Well,
like,
in the book,
she
there's
learned
more to
really
Maggie's prophecy where she talks
Yeah.
about, there's more to Maggie's prophecy where she says your little brother is going to kill you. And they got rid of that in the show, and I don't think they should have, but I guess because they wanted the ending there.
And it also annoys me a little bit when people are like, but the Valancourt didn't kill her. Like, it was never mentioned on the show, people. So-
Right.
Yeah, so sure canon, but canon
I
different.
told people that they wasn't going to win with it.
Right here.
Yes.
Yeah, would you talk a little bit, I know we're running out of time, about
Couple
before
minutes.
you watched season 8, how you thought things would end up for her, or how you would have liked to see things end up for her?
I already answered that question.
I am going to be hated. I kind of wanted her and Jamie to flowers in the attic out of there. Like, because I think I do not approve of that in life, but I thought that that's kind of where it was ultimately headed, and that had been my expectation. I was happy with the Brienne. I was happy with him being true to his arc of like, I'm doomed. I've been with her since the womb. And that's honestly what I thought. I thought she'd like see the world coming apart and would leave like she was trying to do. I thought they'd actually make it out. In other words,
We
that's
do
what I thought.
unfortunately have to wrap up, but
Anybody? Do you want to listen?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Thanks, everybody.
thank you guys.